Hello, this is my second video in my series explaining how to make your own custom origin for the Origins mod. This video will show you how to give your origin a ranged attack with a cooldown, so let's get right into it. Okay, so if you haven't already, open up your Minecraft world and then open up your data packs folder. I'm going to do that just by going resource packs and it will get me there very quickly. Go to saves, the world, data packs, and here's the Blizzborn origin from the last tutorial. So what we want to do is we want to go into the Blizz folder, then the powers folder. What I didn't mention last time was you might not have the .json extension there. It didn't really matter in the first tutorial since this file already existed, but if you need to enable it, you go to view, and then you have file name extensions. See, if I turn it off, it disappears. If I check it again, it reappears. You want to have this enabled. So you can right click, go to new, text document, and you want to name this whatever you want your projectile power to be called. I'm going to call mine blizzball.json. Make sure that it's not a .json.text, and when this comes up, press yes. So you'll see here it is a file type JSON with .json on the end, no .txt. So you want to open up blizzball.json. Now, before we get into coding this power, I just want to explain what each field means and what values you can put in them. There are a lot of fields in this power, but don't worry, I'll make sure to explain them as simply as I can. So, the first field is the power type. In a power file, you can only have one power type, unless you use a multiple power type, but I'll be saving that for another tutorial. There's a full list of power types over on the wiki, though if you see one that you want to have explained or want used in a power, then let me know in the comments. Then there's the entity type, which is just the namespace of a Minecraft entity. The cooldown is a value that determines how long you have to wait in between activating the power. The count is how many projectiles you want to shoot when you activate it. The speed is how fast the projectile is moving, and the divergence is how accurate it is. The higher the speed, the quicker your projectile will move, and the higher the divergence, the more likely the projectile is to stray from the angle you're viewing at. Think of it like a shotgun. When you shoot a shotgun in a game, the bullets don't move parallel to the gun. They move in many directions at different angles. That's what the divergence value is. Next is the sound. Like the entity type, you can find the sound by doing /play sound, and it will bring up a list of all the sounds you can play. And there are a lot, so I normally go down the list by pressing down until I see the name sound that looks similar to what I'm looking for. Then I finish off the command and run it to listen to the sound to see if I like it. Then there's the tag field, which is a string that you put NBT data into. In this example, the tag is pickup 0B, which means that you cannot pick up the arrow when it lands on the ground. Then there's the key field. The key parameter in the field is how you define what button you want to press to activate the power. This can be the jump button, or the attack button, or one of the two keys that Origins has especially for these powers. The continuous parameter controls whether or not the effect should be constant when the button is held. Finally, there's the HUD render, which is the field that defines what your cooldown bar should look like. When you want the HUD to be shown, you should put should render to true. Then the sprite location will tell you which set of resource bars you want to use. I'll have a link to the wiki page that has all of the bars on it in the description. Then, to go along with the sprite location, you can put a bar index, which specifies which bar on the image to use. So first off, to start writing the code, we need to have a set of curly brackets. Now all of the code for the power has to be inside of these two for it to actually register. And I'm going to be programming this in the same order that I just explained it. So we're going to be starting by specifying the power type. It's very important that this comes first because it sets the required fields for the rest of the script. So we want to type, and then in these speech marks you want to put origins fire underscore projectile with a comma. And then the next line we're going to specify what entity we're going to launch. So under entity type, we're going to have Minecraft : arrow, since we're going to be firing an arrow that will give them slowness. Then we're going to input the cooldown. Now how a cooldown works is you specify an integer, and the integer is one Minecraft tick. So 1 in the cooldown counter is 1 Minecraft tick, with 20 Minecraft ticks being 1 second. So if you put in 20, you can fire an arrow every second, 40 every 2 seconds, 60 is every 3 seconds. I'm going to keep mine at 60. Okay, ignore everything below this for a second. I forgot to add in a couple parameters that I should have done. We want to add in count. This is how many of the projectiles will be launched. So for us, it's just going to be 1. Then we have speed, which will be how fast the projectile will be going, which is at default 1.5. I'm just going to leave these values as they are. And then divergence is going to be 1. For the tag, we're going to use this section of text, which basically says that we can't pick up the arrow, and the arrow will give you slowness 1 for 5 seconds. So this text, I'm going to put it in here. Pickup 0b, then comma, then custom potion effects, colon, square brackets. Then inside of the square brackets, you want to put ID colon 2. That is the ID of the slowness effect. Duration 100, because I want the effect to last for 5 seconds. And then for the amplifier's start at 0, so 0 in this field is actually slowness 1. 1 would be slowness 2, so on and so forth. And with this text in here, when you fire the arrow, it will give you slowness for 5 seconds. Put a comma on the end of the line and go down 1. Next is the key, which is really simple to use. I want this to fire when you press the primary active key. So you need to make a key object by making something that looks like this, with, instead of an integer after the colon or speech marks for a string, you would put curly brackets to specify that the things that are inside of here are part of the key object. So inside of here, we would need to put key again. But this time we put speech marks, and inside the speech marks we put key.origins.primary_active with a comma on the end of there, and then you can put continuous false, because we don't want this to happen while we're holding down the button. And then we want to put a comma on the end of key, since we're still going to add in more lines. And for the final part of this specific power, we're going to put on HUD render, which is HUD_render. This is also another object, so we're going to have curly brackets on it like the key. And then in here, we're going to have should render, which will be true because we want it to appear, comma. Next line, we're going to have sprite location. And I already know which sprite I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be using Spider-Colo's resource bar 2, which you can grab from the Origins wiki. So I'm just going to copy this right here and put that inside of the sprite location. And then make a new line. Now we need to specify which in the image we actually want to display. So we need to have bar index, which is the index number of the resource bar we're going to use. And in order to know which one you want, you can go over to the page, you can zoom in, and when you look down, you'll see all of these different icons. Now this first one is the icon for an empty bar, so this is not counted towards the bar index. So this white shield will be index 0, with the sword being 1, this one being 2, the pickaxe being 3, this one being 4, this one being 5, and this one being number 6. So the bar index that I will want to use is bar index 6. And now, this power here is almost done. We want to add in name, Blizzball, and then the description, shoots an arrow of slowness at your enemy, which slows them down for 5 seconds. And with that done, that is the power completed. Now in the blizzborn.json file, which you can get to by going into the resource packs, the blizz folder, origins, then blizzborn.json, you need to make a new line by going comma, down a line, and then speech marks, and in the speech marks, you put your namespace, which for me is blizz, just like before, and then blizzball. We can go back into Minecraft, reload, go and choose human. Then, if I go back to choosing Blizzborn, you can see Blizzball shoots an arrow of slowness at your enemy, which slows them down for 5 seconds. And now, if I go into survival real quick, look up, I can shoot the arrow, and if it lands on me, I got slowness for 5 seconds. And then the cooldown appears down here correctly. And you also cannot pick the arrows back up. Also, I realized that the arrow of the sound firing would not actually play because I had my volume off, but as you can see, it does work. And in the second part, I'm going to add in an item action as well as an item condition, so I'll be explaining those as well. I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. If you liked it, subscribe because I will be making more of these, and I will be doing viewer suggested powers as well, which can either be related to the origin I'm making or just in general. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.